Hey everyone, I've just had a chat with Nick Drysdale from Tall Poppy Real Estate, and Nick has been in real estate for about 4 months now, and he's off to a flying start. And Nick had a background in car sales, so you'll get a great perspective on what it was like to be a car salesman and now what it's like to be a real estate agent. And I think we've all heard those comparisons before, so have a listen. And Nick has also been leveraging social media to grow his business. So whether you are a real estate agent looking to build your profile on social media, or you are selling your property and wanting to know how to leverage social media to get the widest audience possible, there are some great ideas in this conversation. But as always, it's not about what we think, we also want to hear what you think. So have a listen and join the conversation. So why don't we just start by telling me about your experience in real estate and maybe even prior to real estate?
Yeah, cool. Look, I mean, I've obviously, as you've mentioned, I started 4 months ago with Tall Poppy. I actually finished my, real estate certificate or real estate ticket all the way back in March last year. Started it July, August the year before that. So it's been a bit of a process. However, I just wanted to obviously get everything lined up with life, and naturally things came up. The wife and I went overseas for 2 months end of last year, and it sort of just worked out that I would be starting in late November, early December with Tall Poppy. So that's sort of what happened. Been 4 months, been loving it. My prior experience to that was I come from a sales background. Started out in retail a long time ago, working for farmers, department store, selling small appliances. That's where my love for sales and connecting with people really started, and I guess blossomed in a way. And then I moved into selling cars. For 2.5 years, I was with Hyundai down in Hamilton, and moved across to Mitsubishi after that time to run the department over there. So sales manager. I did that for 2 years, and then my lovely wife decided she wanted to move back to her hometown of Tauranga. So we moved back over there, and I sold cars for about a year and did a bit of wholesaling. And then, time was right to give real estate a go, I guess, and did my ticket. Loved it. I really enjoyed doing it. It was a bit hard working full time as well, and there is a bit of theory to do, which is important. So I've since worked out. And then, started in November with Tall Poppy in Tauranga, and been loving it ever since. So.
Yeah, nice. So obviously that background in sales, it kind of made sense to progress into real estate. What was the reason that you decided real estate as you were kind of moving things forward through your career?
Yeah, I guess, as anything, I think the first step for me was doing cars, and it's what I knew. It was automotive, and I sort of got to the stage where, not such as like, trying to be modest, but I kind of felt like I'd done everything I wanted to do in the automotive industry. I'd been a sales manager. I had a lot of experience. I was sort of almost getting tired of the industry. It was getting a little bit hard, and I really wanted to give myself a new challenge. Something a bit different. My auntie's in real estate, and I've talked to her a lot about it before I obviously came into the industry, about what it would be like, and what I would need to do or achieve beforehand to actually get into the position to start in real estate. And it's actually funny, going back to my experience with real estate. I actually, when we came over to Tauranga, I bought a house off Susan Northey, who's my manager now with Tall Poppy, and we loved the way she did it. And it was rumblings at that stage. This is early 2021 of me saying to my wife, I want to get into real estate. And through general chit chat with Susan, I said to her, look, at some stage, I'd like to look at getting into real estate. And she worked up since then I worked out she was the business owner for Tall Poppy Tauranga Central. And she said to me, she was great. She said to me, oh, look, if you're ever looking at getting into real estate, keep in touch, let me know. And I sort of thought, that's just a comment people make. 6 months later, I rang her and said, I'm seriously considering doing my ticket. Would you still be interested in potentially taking me on sometime next year? She was great again. She said, yep, absolutely. And we just kept in touch, and that's sort of how it transpired. But I guess going back to your question of why I chose real estate, it would just sort of seem like the natural step for me. I wanted the flexibility of being able to work in my own time. I've got an appointment this evening back home at 7:00 in the evening, but I love that. I love that I can go home and have a few hours off or do something different, and then I can go out and work in my own time. So that's probably the main reason why I chose it, is to create some financial and career freedom for myself and my family moving forward.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people think they're getting into real estate, right? That they go, yeah, there's going to be all of this flexibility and things like that. And there's a couple of things that you've mentioned, which I'll come back to because I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on it. But just around the idea of what you thought real estate would be like getting into it, and now having done 4 months in it, do you find that you get the flexibility that you thought you would? Was there anything that kind of like, oh, that was unexpected?
Yeah, like I think to start with, it's kind of a catch-22. To start with, I didn't have many listings, so I was I had quite a lot of time on my hands, and I really focused on social media, which I think we'll talk about later. But and I was able to be very, very flexible with my time. However, I think now that I've got a lot of listings and a lot more things are happening, I think that I've got to learn to be a bit more organized with my time, and then will come flexibility. You've almost got to be working 24/7 with real estate, which I'm absolutely fine with. I've done in the past. I've been bound to my phone in previous career and job roles, and I'm more than happy doing that. But it's about finding that sort of balance, between life and your job. I think the biggest thing that I like about it is if you had something on during the day, an appointment, you can work around that rather than have to, if you're at work, it's a little bit harder because then you've got to go and ask your manager, or you've got to arrange for people to cover you. I can arrange my work day around that. I'm the boss of what I do for the day. I'm the boss of how my week looks. It's just all those kind of things that I think creates that flexibility, is you being able to build your own week rather than know, well, I have to be here from 8 till 5 because this is the place I work.
Yeah, exactly.
That physical being, I suppose, is probably the one thing I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's more the flexibility around being able to decide when you can do something and when you don't have to. But then there's that the tension is the idea that you need to be available to people. Like you said, almost it feels 24/7 at times. And so then the challenge for agents is creating boundaries effectively, right? So that you go, okay, this is my day off and I'm not going to take calls on this day or something. And obviously when you first get into it, it's like, yes, I'm going to do it and I'll take calls. And then all of a sudden, a few years go by and you're like, I haven't had a day off.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's totally right. I think being aware of what you've done for the week and when you need to take an afternoon off or a day off and making sure you're working on your mental health as well. I think a lot of people get stuck in the fact of, if you're in real estate, you need to work 7 days a week. And yeah, hey, look, you can work 7 days a week, but is that going to be beneficial for your business in the long run? Maybe not. You need to put your mental health and your family, I guess, as a forefront as well as your career. So
yeah, and it's that idea that it needs to be sustainable as well, right? Because even if you are working really hard, if you start to get stressed or burnt out, you're actually not going to do a good job for your clients either, because you might be available, but you might be grumpy and just like, I can't be bothered with this, because you need a break.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, totally correct. Yep.
So the other thing that you touched on there was your history in selling cars in the automotive industry. I know that as a real estate agent, often they say that we get compared to a used car salesman. So I have to ask the question, what is it like having sold cars and real estate in terms of the perception of what you do, and what would you want to say to people about that?
Yeah, it is an age-old sort of used car salesman, cockroach, sort of thing, I guess. I think that's a very 70s, 80s, 90s sort of sleazy used car salesman. For one, I sold a lot of new cars instead of used cars. I was doing both, but I was predominantly new cars, which I think is a little bit different. You've got a different demographic, and and you're trying to be a different, I guess, perception.
And you're unlikely to sell something that will break down the next week or something, right?
Exactly.
Which is probably where the perception comes from, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the biggest key. When you're working at a dealership, like a Hyundai or a Mitsubishi, you're working under that brand. The dealerships are big and they're quite flash. I think people associate with the smaller yards that are small little shacks on a large yard with lots of cars that have dust all over them and, big stickers on the windows. And I think it's a lot different. I guess I think the perception has changed in the last sort of 10 to 15 years on, real estate agents and salespeople in general, especially because the older tricksters, I suppose, the sleazy, I want to say sleazy salespeople are sort of dying out. You can't really afford to be that way inclined nowadays. There is unfortunately still people in our industry and in other industries that are still that way inclined, and but they're slowly being shut down and pushed out by the rest of us genuine people who are just trying to really make a living for ourselves and help people in our business achieve their real estate goals, if you know what I mean. So
yeah, absolutely. I really like that idea, and I think it's one of the challenges getting into the industry. and it's getting easier, like you said, because the reputation is changing, and I think that's because the real estate authority has done a great job, especially with the regulations and tidying things up and making it a much more professional industry. Whereas previously, real estate agents, it took you 2 or 3 weeks to get your license, and then you could pretty much do what you like.
Yeah.
Whereas now, the disclosure obligations, all of that type of thing, it means that agents have to toe the line. And hopefully you find agents who want to as well, that want to do a good job and be honest and transparent like yourself.
Oh yeah, definitely, and that's the key thing, I think, and especially for the company I work for, the values are being open and honest and transparent, and that's what I really like, and I think it is so important to align yourself with a company that has those same values. You don't want to be in a position where you have to put your own integrity, I guess, intact, in harm's way, I suppose.
You don't want to compromise on that.
No, exactly. So no, it is very important to be open, honest, and transparent. And as I said, I think that a lot of people in the past who have actually, unfortunately, given real estate agents a bad name are now gone, and we're moving towards a much more open and honest and transparent society in terms of real estate agents. I hope, anyway.
Yeah, well, that's the idea. Well, that's why we're here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To rebuild that and to continue what other people have started. So that's great. And so for yourself, getting into real estate, you've been quite heavy on the social media side of things, really pushing that side of things. So tell me a bit more about that. Why you think that's important?
Yeah, obviously, I think, I sort of found you on social media. We found each other on social media. And I think that just goes to show how important social media is nowadays. It's how everyone connects. I think, well, not everyone, but probably 90% of people connect. And most people have Facebook. A lot of people have Instagram. Getting towards most people have Instagram. And there's new, obviously, we'll talk about TikTok and things like that a little bit later on, but there's other platforms now which are becoming more and more accessible to more and more people. But going back to why I sort of think social media is so important, going back to what I would do if I was looking for a real estate agent, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier off air, but you're effectively advertising your own personal brand by your social media. If you're posting things about your daily life, people are going to see that, and they're going to start to know who's the real Nick Drysdale, and they're going to start to relate to you, because people go, oh yeah, no, I have a dog and I walk them down at a park, and it's just naturally aligning yourself with people who are like you, and they're the people you want to work with, because they see the world in the same light as you. So I think it's really important to understand who you're targeting when you're putting content out there, and it's really important to be consistent with your social media. And at the end of the day, it comes down to trying to create that sphere of influence. How many people can you get in your sphere of influence who you can change their lives for effectively? Help them sell their home. Help them purchase a home. Give them advice if they need it, all those kind of things. So it's just such an important tool to be able to use. And I think that if you're a real estate agent who's not using social media, you've either been in the industry for 40 years or you're unfortunately not really going to succeed. It's blatant, but I mean, it's just what I believe. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. And what you said about showing your personal life a little bit on social media as well. I think I've seen a lot of real estate agents' pages where it's just their listings, their solds, their market updates, and that's pretty much it.
Yep.
Maybe they put the odd testimonial. And I think that if I was following a page, I would probably be like, okay, I don't need to see all your solds and stuff all the time. Yes, it's good to know you're successful, but the people who seem to really build their social media are the ones who make it more personal, right? And they show their dog and their baby and their this kind of thing. And those are the posts that people connect with.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think going back to what you just said about the fact that there is a lot of agents, and I think the majority of agents, especially in New Zealand, I think we're way behind the rest of the world. Well, not the rest of the world, but say the States, for example, and probably Australia too, in the way of what real estate agents are doing on social media. But going back to what you said about most agents just putting listings and solds and testimonials, it is social proof, and that is one aspect of social media that is important, especially if you're trying to grow your brand. But the other aspect that I would say is even more important is going back to brand awareness and you as a person. That's how people are trying to find agents these days, is trying to connect with people who are who they like. People still buy and sell with people they like and people they can trust. And if you're putting content out there that resonates with them, they're gonna naturally just consciously, unconsciously trust you, if you know what I mean. So important to be putting non-real estate related content on your social media.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think last year the Real Estate Authority released a survey that they had done within the industry, and it had said that, I can't remember the exact statistic, I'll look it up later, but it was something like 70 or 80% of people make a decision with a real estate agent based on the person that they trust. And that was above things like marketing skills, negotiation skills, all of this kind of stuff. It was actually the trust factor that was the most important decision when it came to people choosing which real estate agent they would pick.
Yeah, oh, exactly. And I think I saw that statistic too, to be fair. And I totally believe it. I mean, I would do that. I would pick an agent based on what I've seen on social media and if I can trust them, if I think they're likable and if I can get along with them. And if you go to an appraisal, the majority of the time you get a listing, it's because people like you, right? They like you. It doesn't really, it does matter, but it doesn't matter as much how well you can negotiate or how appealing your proposition is. Obviously it all matters, but the number one thing that it comes down to is how much is that person going to like and how much is that person going to trust you. And that's the most important thing with what you're trying to do when you're putting things out on social media, is build that trust.
Yeah, build that trust so that you get in the door to actually meet them face to face and then actually build a genuine rapport with them.
Yeah, oh, exactly. Yep, totally.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I always think, well, it's this idea that, people will, like you said, make a decision based on someone that they like. Do you think that there are agents who are actually really, really good at what they do? They're great negotiators, they're great marketers, but they haven't developed the skills to build the rapport with someone and they end up not doing so well. And then there's agents who are actually super friendly and people love them, but maybe they don't have the skills, but they actually do really well. Or they get a lot of listings anyway, right?
Yeah, I think it's a funny thing because there's two elements to being a salesperson, right? Some people are very analytical and very, very down to the fine details, very good at the negotiation side of things because they're quite stone-faced. And then you have the people who are on the other side of the foot. They're very likable, they're very bubbly, they're very outgoing, but generally they're a tornado when it comes to everything else. And not very often do you get both. Some people have elements of each, and some people have, obviously a strength on one side and then bits and pieces of the other. I'd put myself into that category. I feel like I'm a reasonable negotiator, but I'm probably less on the finer details, down to the nitty gritty side of things. I'm more on the bubbly, loud,
yeah, put yourself
hopefully likable personality. And I think that's the thing. Some people can be too far that way towards the more fine details and down to the nitty gritty side of things, and they lose sight of what they're actually trying to achieve when they are in negotiation or are trying to win a listing and don't put themselves out there and actually show who they really are.
Or even get to know the person whose property they're selling, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because if it's all just about the house, then you end up losing sight of the people who actually live in the house.
Yeah.
Or are selling the house and what their goals are.
Yeah.
And so, what you're saying there about those two sides, I can totally relate with. Because like for me, for example, when I first got into real estate, it was all the negotiation and the skill side of it. And a side that I had to develop was the building the rapport. And it's not to say that I didn't care about it, because I did, but it was, developing the skills to make sure I'm actually asking the right questions to understand someone well, and then to actually be able to meet their needs and obviously just not also make it super serious all the time and make it an enjoyable experience for people.
Yeah, and I go back to when I was learning to sell cars, and I had a really good, I want to say role model. He was a fantastic car salesman, probably the best I've ever seen still, and he taught me the trick of the trade. And the key thing that I picked up was the rapport he built and how quick he built it. But the first question was never regarding what are you looking at today, or how can I help you today. It was always completely to do with building a relationship. So it was along the lines of I'm trying to think of a question, but it was always unrelated to trying to sell them something, right?
Yeah, like, tell me about your family.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, what's your kids' names, or something like that. And I think that's the key thing when you walk into a listing appointment, or an appraisal, and you sit down with your client, or you sit down with your potential client. Is the first question, right, let's get down to the business, or is it hey, what do you guys do for a living? Or how long have you been here? Or, general chit chat. And I think those first 5 minutes of general chit chat are the most important first 5 minutes, probably 5 minutes, your total interaction with that person throughout the whole listing process, because quite quickly you guys can work out whether you're a match. And that rapport is probably the biggest rapport building time you'll get is the first 5 minutes when they get the first impression. So don't be afraid to just have a general conversation with someone. You are there for work, but there's no reason why you can't chit chat away. Stay for that extra 5 minutes at the end when they want to tell you about their grandkids and things like that, and show you care and do care. Generally, don't wrap it all up and say, right, we're done here, see you later, because you're not building rapport, and that's the most important part, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's also, like you said, be genuine about it. It's not build rapport for the sake of rapport so you can sell their house. It's show a genuine interest in the people because what they're doing is really important to them, right? They're selling the biggest asset that they have probably ever owned, or and the transition they're going through is often huge and it's stressful, and they've got a new baby and they're upsizing, or they've just got married, or maybe there's a death or a divorce in the family or something like that, and being able to empathize with that and genuinely empathize with it, I think goes a long way to building that trust and actually doing a good job.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I also think like the idea that, for some people, maybe it's actually best that they don't sell their house sometimes. And when you actually take the time to understand them and you're not just going, I need to sell your house so I can get paid, and kind of coming alongside them is a really good way of doing that.
And that's the thing, like I've done a few blogs recently, and one of the blogs I focused on was, in regards to sales was, if it's not right for someone, don't do it just because for a sale. Show them that you're actually a real human and you have their best interests at heart. Quite often when I was selling cars, I'd have someone and they'd be upside down on finance or something like that, and rather than try and bury them, a lot of salespeople would just try and tuck them into another car. They'd be loaded up on finance again. They'd be back to square one, even though they'd started making headway on a massive finance, massive loan. Quite often the conversation was, hey guys, look, why don't you try do another year, another 2 years, and work this loan or debt you've got down, and then we can talk about it then, about you changing your car again. And I think people appreciate an open and honest opinion on where they're at, and showing that you actually care and you're not just out for the sale. And same goes with the house, show empathy, put yourself in their shoes and think, well, this offer that I'm bringing them, is it advantageous for them to actually take this offer, or what position are they in, and understand their complete situation and what they really need from you to achieve their goals and get to where they want to be in life, I guess, and empathy is probably the key word there as salespeople, is you have to know how to be empathic. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And then it's like, at the moment we're talking largely around the relationship side of it, right? And then we also touched on the other side of it, which is the skill to negotiate and actually ask the right questions in the negotiation, or say the right thing, or, have the poker face, so to speak. And so, for you said you were largely on the relational side. You've got a little bit of the negotiation side, which you've developed. What do you do to kind of learn those skills more and kind of go, okay, I need to work on this side of my business?
Yeah, the hardest thing for me when I was first starting out selling cars, and it's still hard for me, is just being quiet.
Yeah.
I was always, when I was growing up, I talked a lot. You asked my mum and dad, I was always talking, and everyone shouts the word out, oh, he's got the gift of the gab, and stuff like that. And it's probably the only skill I have, being able to talk. And the key thing with negotiation, and the key thing with actually listening to people, well, there it is, it's listening. But you've got to learn to be able to listen, and you've got to learn to be able to have active listening, and you've got to learn to let them work it out for themselves. So when you're negotiating, you don't need to tell them the deal they should take, or tell them the say conditions they should have, or anything like that. You need to somehow, by shutting your mouth and letting them talk, they need to work it out for themselves. And you need to listen and provide input when you can. But listening is just so important. And it's one thing I've really had to learn through my sales. I mean, I'm much better at it now. I can sit down and have a conversation. When you turn the offer around, same as when I was selling cars, turn the offer around, don't say a thing. It's always the age-old saying, first person who talks loses, right? So I've got better at that in time. But that was probably the key thing for me, is learning when to be quiet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally understand that. There's a book, I think we mentioned it earlier, by Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. And one of the things he talks about is that silence, where it's literally just ask a question and shut up. And often, when there's that awkward silence, it's tempting to fill the gap and go, oh, I better say something now. But actually just sitting and waiting, and they're going to feel uncomfortable and speak.
Yep.
A lot of the time.
Yep. And that's right. Like, it is awkward. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. And it's just one of those things that you have to work through, and let them talk. When they first respond, don't just jump in again and think, well, now I've won, I can go in and tell them everything I want to tell them. Let them talk about it, let them talk amongst themselves. People like to talk through their emotions and their feelings about, especially something as important as, if you're talking, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe even into the millions, for a property that they're looking to sell. It's a really, really big decision. You can't just expect them to turn around and say, yep, sweet, where do I sign? And quite often on the other side, when you're talking to a buyer, again, it's a big decision for them. Don't put any pressure on them. Let them talk. Aid them, support them, and show empathy. And yeah, you'll know what to do when the time comes. It'll be a much easier, close, because all you have to do is ask for the business, because everything else is ticked off, and they've worked it out for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And the good thing about that approach as well is that you're not putting unnecessary pressure on someone. So it means that they actually feel better about the experience as well. And they're not going, oh, that real estate agent pressured me into this and now I've got buyer's remorse or something like that. They've actually gone through the process. They understand what they're doing. You've asked all the right questions to understand all the barriers, and then you're able to have a meaningful conversation and, put an offer on paper or whatever it is that you're doing. And they actually like the fact that they're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, it's bang on.
Yeah, and it goes a long way to building trust. So in all of that, obviously there's a lot of different elements to real estate, and there's a lot of skills that you have. And as an agent, how do you then squeeze all of that into your social media?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard. And I guess the thing is, I don't know if I put a video out yesterday on Instagram, and it was about what we do when we do an appraisal, what we do when we prepare an appraisal. And it's just about realizing that a lot of people that have never been in real estate, or have never really sold a house, or have only done it once or twice in their life, don't understand what we do on a daily basis. Don't understand the back end. They think we turn up, we go, oh, that's worth 900,000 or whatever. We walk away. When the listing comes, we sign it up, we put it online, and we sell it, and that's it. There's a lot of elements to real estate, as you know, Ben. And I think it's quite important, without obviously going into details that can't be disclosed, but it's important to highlight how we do it and how we hypothesize, a price for a property or a valuation for a property. And I think it's just important to be, again, it's being open and transparent. And I think that's so important. And it is about trying to tie all that into, working through your personal brand on social media and putting out content that is not only, promotes your own brand, but is informative and helps people to understand the industry and understand what's happening when they're asking for an appraisal or evaluation on their property. And it's got to be helpful. That's the thing at the end of the day. You're trying to help people, and it's the trust thing. If you're helping people, people naturally will trust you. So I think that's what I'm trying to focus on with my social media, is tying in all the things I know and the things that, skills that I have and skills that I'm good at, and highlighting them, and actually trying to help people understand, how things work and what this means in real estate, and what this means in real estate, and all those kind of things.
Yeah, so like educating and adding value. Yeah. And I also know one of the things in social media as well is that you have this. Often you start creating content and nobody's watching it, right? And then you go, oh, well, what's the point? I should, focus on something else. But I've seen so many people where they have all this content, no one's watched it. Suddenly they have one thing that goes viral for whatever reason, and then people go back and watch the rest of it. And so it's like what do you think about that, creating this backlog almost?
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, it's the most important thing. Consistency is key. The more content you're putting, the more chance you've got of it going viral. And I guess it's not necessarily that you're trying to actually make your content go viral. Yeah. But I mean, I was looking through my Instagram reel views the other day, just having a look, and a lot of them have 300, 500, 700. Some over 1,000. I've got a couple that are over 2,000 views. And look, I'm not going to say that that's every person that's viewed each reel has fully engaged with that reel, and I understand that they probably haven't. But where else can you, just from doing 5 minutes of work, 5 minutes of talking, can you get 500 to 1,000 people's eyes on you? Where else? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Without paying, it's free.
Yeah.
So I mean, why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you take 10 minutes a day to do a quick video to say, hey guys, this is where the market's at, or hey guys, this is what an appraisal means, or hey, if you're looking to sell your house, now is a good time because X, Y, Z. I think that's the key thing, is just keep putting it out there, because in time, if you've done 20 reels over 20 days and you times it by 500, I mean, what's that, 10,000 views?
Yeah, and imagine if you had to spend that time doing letterbox drops or something, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So, and the excuse isn't there anymore to I can't do it because I don't know how to do it. You know, there's so many YouTube videos. You know, there's probably an agent in your team who's really good at it. Go and ask them how to do it. You know, it's just one of those things that I think you've just got to do. You've just got to do. And vertical video is so important. You know, with those Instagram reels and TikTok and the likes. You know, it's just so important to have in today's market and today's industry.
Yeah, everyone's got a camera now on their phone, and a good camera, right? So it's not like you go, oh, I don't have the equipment either.
Yeah.
You can pick your phone up and go, hey, I'm at this property, sneak preview, whatever it is you want to do, and then post that in 5 seconds.
Absolutely, and it doesn't need to be professional. You know, I keep saying to people, raw is fine. Do it as raw, because at the end of the day, people want to see you and the real you. You know, quite often you can advertise a house, and this is what I actually don't like about the real estate industry, is the videos are fully edited. They look beautiful. The house looks absolutely wonderful, and you're setting up the standard so high for when that person turns up to the property, they're expecting something that it's probably not. And then how do they feel when they first walk into that property? The first feeling they have is deflation, because they thought it was going to be something different. I'd rather go through it raw and show it for its true beauty or its true self, and have people turn up and be pleasantly surprised. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you want to build the expectation rather than have a letdown, right?
Exactly. And I'm not saying don't do professional videos. I'm just saying that there is this obsession with people having things really professional in our industry. You know, professional. You know, some things need to be professional, no doubt. But I think when you're doing quick clips and stuff like that, don't worry about it. You know, don't worry about if a hair's out of place. Don't worry about it if you've just been for a run and you just want to quickly do an update or something. And I was worried about doing videos without a dress shirt on when I first started, and now I do. You know, most of my videos are with a t-shirt, or and it's just one of those things that you learn that people don't care. People are fine with you and being just a regular person, a regular guy, and that's what you want to show at the end of the day, that you're just a regular person, and they can relate to you. Going back to that whole relating thing, but I think it's important to do raw footage, especially on your 30-second, 60-second vertical videos. Just so important in my eyes.
Yeah, and there's different platforms as well, right? So you've got Instagram, Facebook, TikTok now, LinkedIn, and in my mind, each of them almost has a slightly different angle. Like TikTok, if you try to do a polished video that's all nicely branded and blah blah, no one's going to engage with it, because it's actually about that authenticity and being super raw, like you said. But maybe if you're doing photos on Instagram, I don't know, then maybe they need Instagram is all about this nice looking reel. Maybe feed. Sorry, but reels again are different. They're more like TikTok sort of thing. What are your thoughts about the different platforms?
Yeah, like I think all of them have their own reasons, and I think the misconception, just to talk about TikTok for a bit, is when it first came out back during lockdown, it was very much a young person's platform. There was a lot of those dancers and people still associated with COVID TikTok, right?
Yeah.
And it's just not that anymore. It's people, I want to say lazy, but it is lazy. People want to take in their content lazily, right? They don't want to read anymore. They want to just be able to sit there, scroll through 20-second, 30-second video, watch. And my wife does it, and I do it on the odd occasion. We just sit there and scroll through TikTok. And we're both homeowners, so you can't say, oh, it's just young people on TikTok, because my mum's on TikTok. There's people everywhere that are on TikTok, and people are now more so than ever taking in their content via video, and you're more able to relate to your audience via doing video, because it's you. It's not you writing something. People get to see the real you, and then when they turn up to an open home, they meet you, they go, oh, that's that guy off the video we watched, and it's about brand awareness. But TikTok's so much like Instagram Reels. I post both sort of side by side. I was more focused on Instagram Reels to start with, but I've just started focusing on TikTok again. But you've got to try and be linear with both, I think, and realize what both platforms are for is maximum exposure, really. And the content has to be interesting. You can't just be putting on, oh, hey guys, it's Nick here from Tall Poppy. You got to make it engaging. Yeah, you got to be engaging. And I think the most important thing I do with a lot of my videos is I don't start with introducing myself. And I think that's most important, because you lose a lot of interest in your first couple of seconds. And if you're saying, hey guys, it's Nick here from Tall Poppy, you've lost them if they're not interested, right? Whereas if you start with a question like, have you guys heard about the latest trend in real estate, or something like that, and you want to pique people's interest, and that keeps people watching. And I've noticed that my best performing videos have been the ones where I haven't started with a greeting, because why do you need to start with a greeting when you're only doing a 20-second video? Like, you've already done your 5 seconds and you've done your greeting,
Yeah, totally.
Are you going to do an ending as well? I just think it's it's learning different nuances with these apps, you know, creating hashtags for, you know, TikTok and Instagram, and what pushes your content to the top of the page, and gets more exposure at the end of the day. And I think they're all important. You know, you've got to be on Facebook, got to be on Instagram, TikTok definitely, LinkedIn is important as well. And I mean, there's other platforms we can go through as well, but those are probably the main ones, especially in New Zealand, that I think you should be on, and you should be doing stuff, you know, if not daily, you know, 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been reading a little bit more about TikTok recently, and you know, I find when I'm scrolling through it, it's so addictive compared to the other ones, right? You're just like, oh, next video, and I think there's 150 million people in America now who use TikTok, and that's half the population pretty much. So it just shows how big it is, and there's no way that's all under 10-year-olds, you know.
Nah.
So there's absolutely people from all ages and demographics who are using it now, and it's changed so quickly. And one of the things that I've noticed as well is, like you said, you know, because people's attention spans are so short now, I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but the idea that, you know, you say a greeting and they disengage with the video, the reality is that we can either fight that or embrace it. Right. And so getting rid of the greeting and just going straight to a question that engages someone. And then I've also seen a lot of people on TikTok, they do the whole, you know, cut, and they cut out every single pause in the sentences. And so it's like suddenly they're zoomed in, suddenly they're far away, suddenly it's here, now it's this angle. And it's like, it's just one sentence at a time and they're all cut. And it means that, you know, you're ready to move to the next video, but it's cut to the next sentence. I'm going to keep watching. Oh, now it's the next sentence. Oh, now it's the next sentence. And it's not just this, you know, 1 minute or 30-second monologue. They kind of make it feel like it's a conversation somehow.
Yeah, and I relate it to, I mean, that's definitely a key point. And I do the same thing. Like, I cut the videos and I cut them as close together as possible, because you think about when you're talking with someone, you know, when do you jump in and talk? You jump in when there's a pause, right? And that's when you lose engagement, because people then go scroll to the next video. There's an excuse there for them to go, all right, flick up to the next video, cut the pauses so you're talking, and hopefully get them for the whole video. And the other thing I wanted to highlight is captions as well. Captions are really, really important, and there's many good apps. You can do it actually on Instagram. They don't look great, but you can do captions on Instagram. You hit the little A up the top and you find captions there. And I have an app for it, which I think I paid $20 a month or something, but they're very bold, engaging captions. And a lot of people are taking in content now silently, so, you know, but watching videos, you know, you think of people who are
they're at work, right, and they don't want they just sort of silently scroll through.
Exactly, they're trying to silently scroll through, and they don't want it loud, and they can't hear it, so they want to be able to just scroll through the videos and see videos. If you haven't got captions, automatically they're going to be skipping you. If you've got captions, you're going to keep those people interested. Yeah. And the other thing is, it helps people to understand what you're saying, because naturally, if you read along and you listen, you take in the content better than if you're just listening, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's
especially that kind of learning, you know. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So that's very important, is to have captions and just.
So what's the app that you use?
It's called Captions.
It's called Captions.
Yeah, I don't think it's on Android. I've had looked for someone on Android and I couldn't find it, but it is on Apple, and it's like a little purple sort of emblem, and it's really good. I think again it's $20 a month, and it's pretty easy to use, and I love it. I use it for all of my videos. So.
Yeah. Oh, nice. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, highly recommend it.
Yeah. And so, do you think that social media has a place for when people are selling their property? Because obviously, there's, you know, what agents can do on social media, but what about people selling their property and also buyers?
Yeah, like I think, you know, going to what obviously real estate agents do, definitely. I mean, you can put money behind a campaign, and you can actually track how many people see it. You know, you can look at impressions, you can look at click-throughs, and there's obviously lead generation as well. But when you're just talking about selling your property, totally. I mean, you need to be everywhere. You know, I've seen properties sell on Facebook Marketplace. You know, there's these kind of avenues, and especially when you can create like really cool videos on Instagram, why not put them on Instagram Reels? You know, you might find out of your 500 people, there might be 50 that live in your area, and out of those 50, there might be 2 who go, oh, actually, we're looking for a property, and there might be 1 who comes to an open home, and that might be your buyer. You know, so why not put it everywhere? Why not put it all out on social media? And again, if you're selling your house, you know, by yourself and privately, then yeah, 100%, you need to be putting it on social media. Put some money behind it, you know, see how many people are looking at it. it's just another avenue to potentially get eyes and exposure on your listing or your property, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always had this thought that, you look at things like print media, and I still think there's a place for that to a degree, but say TradeMe, realestate.co, OneRoof, these kind of platforms, people are intentional about where they're looking. So they're going, I want to search in this suburb, I have this budget and this sort of thing. But as real estate agents, we know that so often the buyer actually ends up buying outside of their search range. And so when you have the platforms like TradeMe, there is a limitation. I mean, you can click nearby suburbs, but often it goes beyond that. And so you end up losing some of the buyers who are not looking in that area. And that's where I always saw print media like Property Press, because you could, you put it out to the whole of Tauranga or say East Auckland or Central Auckland or something like that. So you're going beyond the catchment of the people who are being intentional about their search. And so with social media, it's kind of replacing that in a way, because you can choose where you want to target your audience. So you could be in Tauranga and target everyone in Auckland. And you can also choose the age range, you can choose special interests, you can do all of that kind of stuff, and people can share. So it means that even if I'm not looking for a house, my mum might be, or my friend might be, and then I see a property come up and I go, I'm going to tag them in this property because I know they might be interested. Yep. So you're kind of getting a much wider net.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's exactly what I was going to say. Is that last part is being able to tag or share or send it via Messenger, and there's so many. I had one of the first properties I listed. I just played around with it really. I think I put $20 behind the campaign, and I accidentally put a send message button on the listing. It should have been a click through to the actual Tall Poppy website link, but it wasn't. It was a send message, and I can tell you how many messages I got. People saying, "Oops, accidentally clicked through," or was looking for the listing, and I only figured it out later. But there is people who are genuinely interested on Facebook, who, if you put $20 behind each listing you have, will see your property, and that potentially could be the person who's your buyer. So and you're right. Like people are always looking for mum or for sister or for brother or for their uncle that down the line who's looking to move up to be closer to the family, or things like that. And people use different avenues of searching for property or searching for things in general. So yeah, what you're saying is key. It's the exposure and the I guess sharing is really important, to be able to share between parties or interested parties, content, like your listings. So yeah,
absolutely.
Really important. Yeah.
And I don't think I've seen anyone do advertising yet on TikTok for properties. Do you do that?
I haven't yet. I did. I'm going to do some property walkthroughs on TikTok. I know you can do some actual advertising. I haven't started doing that yet, although I believe it will be something that will be important in time to be doing in New Zealand. That's for sure.
Yeah, because it'll be interesting to see whether the industry moves into that and maybe being the first there, because at the moment, often when a social media platform is relatively new, you get better reach, and then they slowly bring it down to start increasing advertising spend and things like that. And so maybe it's a case of vendors at the moment going, actually, I want an agent who engages in these platforms now because I'm going to get better reach than on an older platform.
Yeah, totally. Yep. And that's the thing. It's just about throwing, as you said, increasing your net as to where you're gaining your exposure, I guess. And if you're only on one platform, well, then you can only really be limited to that platform. But if you're and learning each platform, learning what you should be putting on each platform, how you should be perceived on each platform. What you put on Instagram is not necessarily what you want to be putting on Facebook, because you potentially are targeting a slightly different demographic. So it's about understanding, what sort of things you want to be putting on your Facebook, what sort of things you want to be putting on Instagram. I try and keep my Instagram pretty video heavy because I want my reels to be seen. So when people are looking, I don't want them to have to sift through hundreds and hundreds of hey, check out this house. Facebook's where I post all my listings. I quite often post my blog there, other bits and pieces that I'm doing personally as well. I post on Facebook, but I try to keep Facebook pretty more official, the official Nick Drysdale Real Estate.
Yeah, slightly more formal version.
Slightly more formal, and Instagram's a bit more fun. I post my stories. I do share my stories to Facebook as well, which is cool. So that's another thing, if you can integrate Instagram and Facebook, because obviously Facebook owns Instagram or Meta. You can share between the two as well, which makes it nice and easy just to cover off both when you do a story. And then TikTok is even sort of more funner and different again.
You go crazy with TikTok.
You go crazy with TikTok, yeah. Obviously, you still want to maintain some form of professionalism, because you are an agent. You do have a brand, your own brand, and the brand you're working for's reputation to uphold. But I think, yeah, at the end of the day, people want to see the real you, and that's just the most important thing. And we've come back to that so many times in this conversation, but it is so important, with social media, is how people perceive you as a person and as a real estate agent.
Yeah, so let's say that you're looking to sell a property and you're looking for the right agent. What do you think are some of the things that a seller could ask an agent to kind of get a sense of their understanding of social media if it's important when they're selling their property?
Yeah, I guess the things I would be asking is, obviously, where would my property be advertised, or where would I find my property if I'm looking for it online? And are you going to be doing any form of video? Because again, I think video is so important, and I would be paying even if they have a fee to do a professional video. Pay to get a professional video done, but also ask them if they'll be doing some raw property walkthroughs. I think going back to a point you made in a couple of conversations ago regarding how many people are looking out of region versus how many people are looking in region. So obviously Trade Me allows you to see that, and so does realestate.co.nz when you get their reports. And from my listings lately, I think 60 to 65% are in region. So that means 30 to 35% of people are looking from outside your region, whether it be Auckland or Hamilton or people. And where we are, Tauranga is quite a desirable place to live. So you should be advertising to everyone. So asking your agent or asking the person that's potentially going to be selling your property, where will my property be seen? Because there's going to be people from all around the country needing to be able to see your property. Otherwise, you're limiting yourself to who the buyers are that are going to be coming through.
Yeah, and I think that's a great question, because it's also not leading them to talk about things like social media. And if they don't bring it up, then maybe it suggests that it's not one of their strengths.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not saying you just totally wouldn't go with an agent, but I do think it would be more than beneficial for you to go with an agent who is up to date with social media and who wants to, put things on social media. And I think the thing is, you maybe don't even have to ask them. And this goes back to the whole reason why social media as an agent is so important, because before they come for their appraisal or whatever, they sit down with you, you can go on their social media and have a look on their Instagram, have a look on their Facebook, see what they're doing. Are they posting other video walkthroughs of other properties, or are they not? Or are they posting regularly on Facebook? Are they posting regularly on Instagram? If they're not, well, it probably goes to show that they're not really doing a lot on social media, and your property is probably not going to be seen on social media. That's probably the bottom line.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's kind of like you look at the track record of sales. You also can look at the track record on social media and see how engaged they are and how many people are liking and commenting and things like that as well.
Yep. Absolutely.
So then, being an agent, I know that when I was selling, I found it was almost like sometimes, to be honest, I couldn't be bothered. I was like, social media, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, that's changing. If you were to say to an agent, what's your best advice for getting started, what would that be?
Yeah, I think the more the merrier is probably my advice. I mean, I think consistency is the most important thing. So, to start with, just to get into a habit, as I said, it needs to be informative and it needs to be engaging, but just don't worry too much about that to start with. Just start posting, start doing videos, even if you're just saying, hey, look, I'm here at my open home at blah, 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 XYZ Street, and I just wanted to say how good the weather is and how good the gardens look, or something like that. It might not be that engaging, but just do it, and then out of habit you'll naturally be able to do it, and you'll get better and better, and you'll think of more engaging things to do. But make it part of your day. Make it part of your day to do a video. I personally like to do a video every time I'm about to go out and do go to a meeting or something like that, because I'm in my dress shirt anyway, and I like to do it in my dress shirt if I can, because I like it. I like to look professional.
Look professional,
yeah. In some of my videos anyway, and I'll quickly do a video, and then I can post it later or whatever. But it takes half a minute to just quickly turn the camera around to face you and talk to it. Talk to it about what you're saying, and I understand that for some people that doesn't come naturally. As a real estate agent, I feel like it probably should come naturally, because you really do need to be able to just talk on the fly. But if it doesn't come naturally, just practice. Keep doing it, and you'll work out what you need to do. And people aren't going to knock you down because it's not, you look a little bit nervous, or you're not quite, candid and relaxed and natural. But over time, you'll get better and better, and it just becomes repetition. And you'll become consistent with it, and you'll see results.
Yeah. So basically just get started.
Just get started, like delve yourself into it, learn. That's what I did. I mean, I didn't really know much about Instagram at all. That's the one I focused on with video, and I just started playing around. I watched a couple of YouTube videos on how to add captions. I started playing around with cutting things together. I just really, through trial and error, I was putting hashtags on, and I didn't know which ones to start with, and now I've sort of worked out which ones go well, which ones don't. What I should be putting in my description, how important that is. And I've done that all pretty much on my own accord. It's because I was interested in it, and I had obviously time to do it. But block yourself out half an hour a day, in the morning to just try and figure some stuff out, figure out your next Facebook post, and create a plan for your week. That's what I do every Monday morning is I sit myself down at about 7 o'clock with my cup of tea and whatever I'm having for breakfast, and I'll work out, right, what am I going to be doing for the week, and I make it sort of a baseline for my social media for the week. And then obviously as things come up during the week, I add them in, but I want to have 3 videos absolutely minimum, have 3 videos on Instagram. I want to have 3 Facebook posts, absolute minimum. I want to do 2 TikTok videos, absolute minimum. And then if anything else comes up as well, I'll add those on top, and that will top it up. But what is going to be your minimum for your social media for the week?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Because I think as well, it is all well and good saying just get started, pull out the phone and just do a video and start posting. And I think that's a really good first step. And then you can build in structure, right? And then so you start planning and you go, okay, I'm going to do these videos. And then you start getting into the habit of that. And then you start learning what works and what doesn't work. And then you start to refine it. And then suddenly you're getting a lot of engagement and it's starting to grow and build. And I think that's a nice way of sort of looking at it and making it accessible for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just get stuck in. Just learn as much as you can about social media, because it's only going to get more important. It's vitally important now to your business, but it's only going to get more important because as more people flood into the different platforms. So yeah, get started. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, hey, great chatting, Nick, and I've really appreciated it. And I think that, if agents are listening to this, the advice, get started, do your planning. And if you're looking to sell your property, then you've got some good questions to ask agents to make sure that your property is going to be represented well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hey, look, it's been a lot of fun, and thanks for having me on, and I'm sure we'll keep in touch. So
awesome. All right. Thanks, Nick.
Cool. Thanks, man.